Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
Yo, dog, Kenny Boucher here. This is The Long War, and I'm joined tonight by my partner in crime, Wyatt Turk. How's it going, brother?
Oh, what's up, dude?
So, we don't have Rob, as the title indicates. And this is totally factual. F-35 struck his house, at least close enough to his house that it took his internet out.
Yeah, dude. That's why you don't let Marines have fancy toys. They just break them, lose them.
This whole thing, was this a setup just so you can take a jab at Marines?
Not entirely, but I do find the whole situation hilarious that they just lost an F-35. Like, who knows? Who knows where it is? Keep an eye out for it.
Classic. So, Rob sent us some news to cover, some new releases, some 30K stuff, some Blood Bowl stuff, something about knights being allocated. I think I just summarized the news.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah, good job.
Felt that was a good job.
Yeah.
So let's, we will talk about these new Space Marine detachments tonight. Lots of fun stuff. We covered them earlier in our tactics program. And we just spent about 40 minutes talking about it here on the after hours. So if you're just listening to this on Patreon, you know, or you're hearing this on your drive to work, and you're like, fuck, I want to hear all that stuff. Well, you know, Patreon. And Rob could use your help right now. Right? So I promise you some percentage of the Patreon proceeds are going to go to be rebuilding his F-35 Marine incompetently struck house.
It's a good way to say it, yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to call back for you. So anyway, let's roll out to our award-winning segment. Man, my segue last week, I heard it when I was editing, when I was like speaking of getting hard or some shit like that.
That was a good one, yeah.
I was like, oh,
Gotta
fuck.
keep it hard out here, boys.
Yeah. So you kick it over to Wyatt Turk. Let's roll out to that Cave of Wonders and, you know, keep it hard.
Would you rather that your bed is always slightly a bit too hot or too cold, or that your food is never quite the right temperature?
That's a good one. So like always too hot or too cold randomly throughout the year, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason, no predictability.
Well, it's not random. It's just that like it's too hot or too cold of what you would desire.
So if I feel too hot, then I kick the sheets off, I'm going to suddenly feel too cold.
Yeah.
So I have to get used to that lifestyle. Or my food is never the right temperature. So something that's supposed to be hot is not hot enough, and something that's supposed to be cold is not cold enough.
Yep.
Same logic, same game logic.
Yes.
Okay. But we're not talking like the genie's not going to fuck me with a slice of pizza and it's going to like suddenly lava burn my mouth. It's just going to like be like kind of lukewarm, never really.
Yeah, it's never what you want. It never hits the spot.
It's not intended to hurt me.
Yeah.
Just my emotions.
Yes.
It's like it's
a minor inconvenience that you have to live with forever.
It's like it's a form of psychological abuse over time.
Yeah.
It will stack until I go crazy. Yeah, I feel like you can't fuck with your sleep, but man, I feel like never being satisfied while you eat could do just as much mental harm. Can someone fact check me on that? Like, I already don't sleep enough. So if I cut too deep into that, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, you know, I tried to take a nap today. I'm trying to like build naps as a thing that I can do, because I haven't successfully taken a nap in my entire life. So far, day 4 billion of failure to nap. And I just know that naps will be forever off the table in this new gin motivated life that I live. I just had a slice of pizza and it wasn't the right temperature, and I was okay with it. For now. So if I pull a slice of pizza out of the fridge in the morning to eat for breakfast, and I want it cold, it's not cold anymore.
No.
Fuck. It's based on my desires, not what's generally considered the correct temperature for a slice of pizza. Jeffrey said, no sleep equals dementia. Sleep is number one. Add magnesium. I did add magnesium. My fucking ADHD doctor told me to take it. Thing is, I sleep. It's just, I wake up after 5 hours. Feel exhausted.
Oh, dude, you might have sleep apnea.
I've slept for 8 hours. Felt exhausted. Slept for 10 hours.
You might just be
Exhausted.
old.
I definitely have sleep apnea. I was explaining to somebody. I was like, so if I ever roll over to my back, which I don't sleep on my back, I feel like I'm holding my breath. Someone was like, yeah, dude.
Might want to get that checked out. That's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck it. Fuck sleep.
Just-
Fuck sleep. I choose you. You make me uncomfortable when I sleep.
okay.
It can't get worse. But if it does, at least I can take solace in knowing my food is the correct temperature.
You gotta pick one or the other. So I mean, whatever makes you happiest.
Yeah, food makes me happy. I pick my food stays good and my sleep stays worse. Fuck sleep. I might just cut it out. I might just evolve. Like past the need for sleep.
Well, okay. See, that works out.
Sleep is for losers. That's right, Carrot Queen. All right. Well, this will be an easy one. So we skipped the news. No, we did the news. We did the whole segment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're supremely efficient.
Yeah.
Proud of you.
Thanks, man. So, Wyatt, what happened this week for Space Marines specifically, and also the greater meta? BaronofDice.com, the official dice sponsor of the Long War podcast. Use promo code LongWar5 for 5% off. If you're looking for a superior dice manufacturer, then look no further than Baron of Dice. Custom artwork, faction representation, and crisp razor edge square dice. Remember to use promo code LongWar5. Again, that's BaronofDice.com, the official dice sponsor of this podcast.
We got a bunch of previews for the upcoming Space Marine Codex, showing off not everything, but a good chunk of the rules for the new detachments, as well as some stratagems and some of the enhancements that are coming along with it. And it's following the new normal of get your detachment. That detachment has specific stratagems and enhancements you're allowed to take. Can't crisscross, that sort of thing. And even though the branding of these detachments is somewhat chapter specific, the actual rules for them can be played by anybody. So they can fit multiple different archetypes. You know, it can hit your favorite chapter's sweet spot, even if it's not specifically branded for them. For example, the new Stormlance Task Force is all about moving fast. It's the lightning assault, geared towards mounted guys, but like you don't even have to run bikes if you don't want to. There's no restriction as far as we know yet. There's no requirements as far as we know, but the branding screams White Scars. They even use White Scars pictures on the Warcom, but it's just army-wide advance and charge. That's what the detachment gives you. Advance and charge is a great rule. Lots and lots of uses for it. It's a favorite of a lot of people. That play style is a lot of fun. I like that rule. I mean, that was Red Corsairs all day.
That was your fucking shit.
Dude, I love it. So this opens up a lot of options because it's just all Adeptus Astartes units get advanced in charge. And, having that on stuff that's more than just bikes, more than just infantry is actually a pretty big deal because it has been limited in the past. And so removing those restrictions opens up so many possibilities with the plethora of Space Marine units you have at your disposal. They also show off the new ability for jump pack intercessors is Hammer of Wrath, pretty standard. It's for every model in the unit that ends up in engagement range. You pick an enemy unit and roll a d6 for, like, if you have 5, you roll 5d6. And for a 4 up, you get 1 mortal wound. Pretty standard, not too hard to do. Like, I don't like it when these Hammer of Wrath stuff is on like a 5 or a 6 or whatever, and it's not too easy to do. So right in the middle, 4 up, get to roll your 5 dice every time you charge. Pretty dope. And their stratagem they show off is Wind Swift Evasion. In your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move, select one Astartes unit from your army that's within 9 of that unit, and you can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. But you cannot use it on a unit that is within engagement range.
Yeah.
Super good strat. Like, lots of tactical play there. You can really stop somebody in their tracks. They're trying to set up a charge, just move away from it.
That's a classic. Like, that's a good one.
They got the Vanguard Spearhead detachment. This is, again, it's branded for stealthy boys, your Raven Guard, your sniper forces, that kind of thing. But again, like, this has a lot of play with a lot of different archetypes because its rule is just overall good. And it's all Adeptus Astartes. If you're outside of 12 inches of a ranged attack, -1 to hit, and you get cover.
Oh, that's good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, as we're going to see in a minute, like, this might be one of the go-tos because it's such a solid rule. It's not too strong. It's not like, Weenie Hut Junior rule. It's like right in the middle where you want it to be solid, useful. And the stratagem they show off is Strike from the Shadows. In your shooting phase, you select one infantry unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot. And until the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack that targets an enemy unit that is more than 12 inches away, you improve the ballistic skill and armor penetration characteristics of that attack by 1. If one or more enemy models were destroyed as a result of those attacks, select one of those destroyed models. That destroyed model's unit must take a battle shock test.
Yeah, the first part of that is really useful. Well, the second part may be useful.
Yeah, it's okay. But getting that +1 ballistic skill and AP for your long range attacks, super tight.
Yeah, these are reading like OG chapter thematic. Like,
yeah.
It's like, this is like the Raven Guard, right?
Like snipers, right? That's what you want to read when you see this. But like, this works for all infantry with range attacks. Like, works for your Hellblasters, your Inceptors, Devastator Marines, like all that stuff, dude. So solid stratagem overall. And they show off the first company task force. And its detachment rule is once per battle in your command phase, you can use this ability. If you do, until the start of your next command phase, each time a model from your army with the Oath of Moment ability makes an attack that targets your Oath of Moment target, you can reroll the wound roll as well.
Which lets us infer that Oath of Moment is for hit rolls now.
Yeah, it's already been kind of confirmed that Oath of Moment is changing to hit rerolls instead of hit and wound rerolls, with different sources coming in to supplement that in different ways. And this extremist level threat for the first company is like their special thing. To be honest, I am not super stoked about the first company. I was initially very excited when they were talking about a first company detachment because As you can see with their stratagem, it's like Terminators, Stern Guard, Vanguard, Blade Guard veterans, that kind of thing. Like if you want to run the first company with those guys, like you get your bonuses, and like this bonus is not that tight. It might be something that you can use if you really want to focus on the Oath Moment stuff, but because it's only once per battle, and if they're to be believed, saying that you're going to get other ways to supplement wound rolls with, data sheet abilities and stuff like that in the Codex, this almost seems like not that tight, like not even worth taking.
Yeah, it definitely reads. It's a consumable resource, right? You can use it once. I'd rather see it as a stratagem that you pay CP to use it more than once.
Yeah.
It's a little lackluster. While powerful, undeniably powerful, is a one, but it reads like a stratagem, not like a Legion trait.
Yeah. We'll still have to see what other enhancements and what other stratagems they get, because the stratagem they show off is pretty cool, where it lets you get -1 damage against your a Terminator unit, Blade Guard veteran, Stern Guard, Vanguard, one unit in the fight phase. Really solid rule to have is -1 damage. But is that enough to really focus into this, right? Because like your detachment ability can be pretty big. And since they're changing Oath of Moment, like how is all this going to function together? Like we need more information to be really definitive on an answer. But when we're looking at all these detachments, it's already clear that there's like some standouts and, some kind of on the lower end that don't seem very enticing. The next one is the Firestorm Assault Force. This one's branded towards, your salamanders, close range fire support, but I mean, anybody can use it. So it gives all range weapons in your army the assault ability. And each time an attack is made with a weapon or such a weapon that targets a unit within 12 inches, you add 1 to the strength characteristic, which plays into the whole thing. Because we were talking about this at the pre-show, where if you're a Blood Angels player and you're not seeing something that really screams Blood Angels, this is kind of a Blood Angels flavored thing, because before a lot of players started falling into the trap of only believing they had like 3 units in the army, Blood Angels were known for like supercharging the engines on their vehicles, and having things like Ball Predators and Librarian Dreadnoughts and all that crazy stuff. So if you want a fast moving Blood Angels force, but you also want to have a well-rounded army away from things like Sanguinary Guard and Death Company, this close range eradication thing is pretty cool, because it makes all of your range weapons assault, which lets you advance all over the place and still shoot, making your army very fast.
That's a really fucking good point. I mean, these detachment rules are like 9 out of 10 right now, man. These are good.
Yeah, all pretty solid. No stratagem shown off for them. They bring back the Gladius Task Force. It says the same enhancement stratagems and combat doctrines that you know, so not much to change there. And it says that the Armor of Contempt stratagem is now found across all 7 Space Marine detachments. Pretty useful. Then outside of the articles, we had another kind of leak / rumor / soft confirmation of an attachment called the Ironstorm Spearhead, which lets you reroll 1 hit, wound, or damage roll per unit per phase.
Well, that's a classic.
Solid rule. Great to have as an ability. They mentioned 1 enhancement, which is for a Tech Marine, and vehicles within 6 inches get lethal hits. Another super solid rule. That's a really great, efficient enhancement to put on your Tech Marine, because Tech Marines are already useful for your armor.
It's kind of telling you what it's for, right?
Yeah.
Like it's.
Then they show off some stratagems like auto blow up. Great stratagem, very useful. There's one called Ancient Fury, which gives I'm assuming Dreadnought. It says Walker, but I'm assuming it's actually going to be a Dreadnought instead. And it says +1 move, toughness, save, leadership, OC, and +1 to hit until the next command phase.
+1 OC?
Yeah.
Shit.
So like a +1 to almost all of its stats for one turn. Pretty tight.
Yeah,
it doesn't say when it starts. This might be more limited than we think, so we'll have to see when you're allowed to trigger it and what the restrictions on it are. But it's a solid stratagem. And then you have a shoot back. Says if your vehicle is reduced below half of its wounds, it gets to like shoot back at its oppressor. There could be a good strategy.
So like you shoot at the tank, whittle it down, it falls below half. And now it's like
stratagem and then shoot back.
Triggers, shoots back. Neat.
Really cool.
That is really fucking cool. And then you can heal. Yeah, exactly. I was Grimdark Dork just mentioned. It's like that's fucking. So this is like the Iron Hands.
Yeah, kind of their branded thing, but it could be whatever you want to put in there.
I mean, we've got the Advance and Charge guys, which is pretty much the White Scars. We've got the Stealthy Sniper guys, which is pretty much like the Raven Guard, right? Like, we've got the Weapon Artisan people. That was like the Salamanders thing, which is this, but this one also has all the vehicle things. But it's also kind of, well, we got the assault weapons so that could be the Salamanders one, right?
Yes, that's kind of how they're branding it on the website. Is they show a picture of salamanders with the.
So some of these are like the historical, like status quo of what we expect, but they're not being tied to a chapter. They're just being like it's a play style.
And that's one of the cool things about it.
Yeah,
is that
fuck yeah, that's cool.
Like anybody can use these, regardless of your chapter. Because like the whole like chapters having rules thing has kind of gone away. Like we're back to like if you want to play Blood Angels, like go ahead. You get all your cool characters, and your characters interact in interesting ways, and you get all your guys. But the detachment is what is giving you like your army rule, quote unquote, right? Because you get Oath of Moment and then your detachment rule, and the detachment is where more of that flavor is coming in. And it lets you experience a lot of differing play styles that you may not have had access to before, which is pretty exciting. Kind of like we were saying about the Blood Angels is Blood Angels is a fully functioning Space Marine chapter. So they have all the same toys as everybody else. And then on top of that, they have their bespoke units. And in recent years, there's kind of this pitfall that those players can fall into, which is like, my whole army is nothing but characters, Sanguinary Guard, Death Company. Nothing else exists. Like, it's not Blood Angels if it's not this. And it's like, well, that's just not true. Like, you have your souped up vehicles, you have your ball predators, you have your custom dreadnoughts, and you got your character models, but they also have access to tanks, land speeders, like everything else. So like make use of those. And then these new detachments give you the ability to bring that Blood Angel flavor in there by being fast, because units like your Hellblasters, where you might want them to be fast, but they don't have assault weapons. Like, I'm going to make them assault weapons. You go do all that. Like your Eradicators, where you're like, oh, these big chunky boys with the melta guns, they're so slow. Like, how do I get them there? Well, now they have assault, so they can advance and shoot. Very Blood Angel flavored. Similarly to the Advance and Charge stuff, where like before you had to play White Scars to get Advance and Charge, and that might exclude you from being able to take like your favorite character models or something. Like if I was playing my Ultramarines, but I want Advance and Charge, it's like, well, I can't take Marnius and I can't take Gilliman and I can't take Kygurius, and like all that cuts all that out. Well, now I can play Ultramarines with Advance and Charge and still have all my character models to get my cool synergies. So it's like the best of both worlds.
I'm pretty excited about this, man. I'm like thinking of like, how good. I mean, some of these are just like so. It's like it is literally like the Build-A-Bear shit from.
Yeah.
But you know that shit got a little wacky. This is like, yeah, there's something for everything, and you're not excluded. Like I'm like,
Even if you don't like the kind of like the default setting, so to speak, for these, like, we were talking about this Ironstorm Spearhead, which Spearhead that harkens back to like your vehicle based attachment in 8th edition. And they talk about Iron Hands, but it's like, well, if I'm playing armor and the one thing I'm worried about isn't my offense, because like armor is great offense, like they're tanks and stuff with big guns, lots of guns. Maybe I'm not worried about the rerolls with Master Artisans. Maybe I'm worried about the defense where I want them to stay alive longer. Well, like the Vanguard attachment that gives them all stealth and cover outside of 12 really protects your tanks as they're shooting long ways across the board. So maybe that's what you want to take if you're going to run a lot of armor.
So I'm trying to track down this other Imperial Fist. Apparently, there's another one we don't have. That is like the Imperial Fist one. I thought that's what this one we were talking about was, but this is obviously the Iron Hands one, right? And I'm scheming like a motherfucker on this. I'm like, dude, I'd play this. What was it called? Ironstorm?
Oh yeah, Ironstorm Spearhead.
This is my favorite one. 100%.
Yeah.
Like I fucking will play. I think it's so useful.
Well, yeah, you're thinking about your dreadnoughts and stuff.
Yeah. I'm like,
I got all these dreadnoughts I didn't get to do anything with. It could be cool. I like these stratagems. The big thing for me is like, I'm wondering if the stratagem support and the enhancement support is enough to warrant taking one of these detachments if the detachment rule itself is kind of a wet towel. Thinking of like the First Company one, because the First Company I was really excited about because I'm a fan of like the lore of First Companies and like Terminator Heavy, Blade Guard veterans, Stern Guard veterans, that kind of thing. And when they told us they're going to have a First Company detachment, there was lots of stuff that starts running through your head. And then they're like, you get a once per game ability to, boost Oath of Moment, which is, one target, right? So once per game against one target, you get a buff. This just doesn't seem like enough of a reward for taking this detachment. Like, because there's, as far as we know, there's no stipulations to these attachments. There's no like must include XYZ units in order to field this detachment, right? That could happen, but it doesn't look like it is. And if that's the case, like why would I spec into the First Company if I want to spam Terminators and Blade Guard veterans and Stern Guard veterans, when again, I could do something like, well, if I'm taking all that infantry, I'm skewing into a take and hold kind of play style, right? Because they're not very offensively powerful. Like your Stern Guard veterans and Terminators aren't shooting down a Night Titan with their Storm Bolters, right? So it's take and hold, which means you kind of want to survive as long as possible by utilizing line of sight blocking or like sitting on objectives and tanking saves. So again, like this thing that gives your whole army stealth and cover seems like the better bet, but we don't know what all the other stratagems and enhancements are going to do just yet. So we'll have to wait on that and see what happens. But as far as all the ones we've seen so far, the one I'm the most cold on is First Company.
Yeah, like we talked about it in tactics. It's like the stratagem is good, but it's conditional and situational, making it a really optimum choice for the actual army rule. Like the -1 damage fight phase for the following units. That's a fair and balanced army rule.
Yeah, but it's a unit. It's a single unit.
So I would make it
not even multiple units.
I would make it all units, all of the following units in the following phase. That's conditional, situational, all-time buff. That if you want people to play the First Company units, do that, GW. When they're in the fight phase, all of them -1 damage. That would make it a lot more playable, and then have the Oaths of Moment reroll wounds be a stratagem that is spammable that costs resource. So then their offense is there. That is not That is better than what you have written, and it's not even the best army set of army rules. It just makes it enticing now.
Yeah, like right now, I would need to see some really good stratagems that are also efficient, like really efficiently costed. Because otherwise, I'm just like, this is not that tight. Like we got to see what the Codex holds. Like maybe this ability actually is super dope when compared to like the full breadth of options in the Codex. Like if there's just strictly no other way to get wound rerolls on Oath of Moment, like maybe this is a big slam dunk of a move to like really take out that beat stick unit your opponent has. But if there's like a character support or some other thing that lets you get wound rerolls on a key unit, then this thing becomes a waste of time. Like, why take it?
Yeah, for real. For real. No, it's and somebody in chat mentioned this 40K Magus. It's definitely in line with GW saying like paint your Space Marines whatever you want. Like, and I like that. I like that stance reversal from them. That here's the styles, here's the supplementary rules to support your style. And who cares if you already painted your dudes green? Go nuts. Doesn't matter. This is 9 out of 10. Like these are 9 out of 10. Fucking great.
I think we only have up to go from here because I mean, like each of these attachments is supposed to have like average 6 stratagems, right?
Yeah,
I think that's the standard. 3 enhancements. So like maybe there's like a really good enhancement hiding from us somewhere. Maybe there's some really good stratagems hiding. So we'll have to see what happens. But I mean, like this is good news. I like this.
Mm-hmm. I feel very positive about this. I'm just salty about one.
Yeah, it's just like the one letdown, and I'm biased. Like I'm completely biased because like First Company is like my jam, and it's just not that tight. But I can still play the First Company, quote unquote, of veteran guys, but with a different attachment and get different rules if I want to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and they've got all the right words, just kind of in the wrong place in the wrong order. Like they've got the idea. That's why, it's 9 out of 10. Where, you're almost there, GW. So hopefully the data proves that no one wants to play your First Company. And then you realize that you need to switch it up a little bit. Because people want to play that. Trust me. It's definitely, people have entire collections of that shit.
Yeah, and I mean it kind of breaks with the mentality of what most people want in an army rule. Because like historically, what do people get the most excited about in an army rule? It's something that is
offense or defense.
All the time. Yeah. So it's either going to be like an offensive buff that's on all the time, a defensive buff that's on all the time, or something that like elevates the units that are thematically tied to it into being like more than they would be normally. Terminators are one of the coolest units in 40K history, one of the most beloved going back since their inception. And right now, like they're kind of tough, and that's about it. Like that's kind of all they do. People are constantly talking about how they're let down by Terminators because they just like, they don't punch hard. They don't shoot hard. Like they kind of just sit there and their OC is 1 in the basic case, right? So they don't like hold really hard. They're just kind of chonkies that sit there and don't really do much for their point value. But if you gave us a First Company detachment that was like, hey, your Terminators, they're your bread and butter now, and they're dope. So like invest your points in the Terminators, right? Take the pros and the cons of like, sure, Terminators are kind of slow and they don't shoot very good, but now they hold objectives like nobody's business. Or they're super dang tough to remove, or they punch really hard. Like, give us one of those and people would be happy.
Facts. They're close. It's an exciting week, and as you mentioned earlier, the meta's shifting around. We got to see 12 events over the course of the week. We saw Eldar podium once. We saw a lot of new changes, a little like some new exciting ideas. And that's what we always talk about. Like, we are the meta. Like, it's the decisions we make as a community that ultimately creates the reactions. And then the 4D chess game begins, right? The reaction to the reaction and then the predicted reaction, like
the discussions, the theory crafting. Like, that's what everybody loves to scheming with the boys is the like best way to put all that, right? It's like love doing that stuff. And like shout out to Meta Monday, because I was looking at their post from the 18th, and most of these events are pretty big. I mean, there's like 1 billion RTTs around the world all the time, so they don't really track those. But as far as GT level events, there was a pretty good spread over the past weekend. And it's so nice to see such a variety of armies doing well. Kind of like we've talked about this before, but like the dream is that everybody's faction is respectable in its power, right? And so seeing stuff like Drukhari, Grey Knights, World Eaters, Dark Angels, Thousand Suns, Space Wolves, Space Marines, Chaos Knights, Tau, Votan, like all these people making up to winning tournaments, to podium, that kind of thing. And like Eldari are still there, right? Because again, that's what we want. We don't want Eldari to go from oops, too strong to oh, we can't do that. Like go to the fucking Shadow Realm. Like that's not what we want. We want Eldari to be respectable, just like everybody else. So there's still podiuming events, which is good. And then these other factions with the data slate changes are being elevated and getting out there. There was a note that this big event in Australia apparently had like custom rules or custom missions and custom scoring. So it's like people don't know whether or not that should be included, should not be included. Because the Meta Monday person was like, if you exclude this event because of its weird format, Drukhari had like a 20% win rate, but also like barely anybody is playing pure Drukhari these days. So it's kind of a weird thing, but I don't know. It's nice to see them win a tournament. I think it's cool.
Fuck yeah. It's exciting. Well, kind of feel like we're almost out of things to talk about. Damn it. Is this what the news is for?
Yeah, it's stalling.
Is the news stalling? Because I feel like we've only been fucking podcasting for like 20 minutes. Did we just do the whole podcast in 20 minutes?
God damn. Maybe we did.
Fuck. We can't put this trash out.
What do we do?
Rob will be so mad at us. All right. Hobby questions. We can do that's always a fallback, right?
Yeah, all reliable.
We got a new we're bringing back the hobby AMA section right now, totally planned. So get your hobby AMA questions in right now. Totally not filler. Rat paste. This is legitimate. We have prepared answers. So we'll go back to chat. Demeki says he likes scheming with the boys, and I know what he meant was something gross, and he said he's taking a shit. I want to talk about that. So, yeah. Classic Demeki always comes through.
Crimson Fists or Blood Angels? I mean, like, whichever one you think is cooler, man.
Crimson Fists? Are they the blue ones?
Yeah, blue with the red gauntlets. That's always my answer to anything, man. Like, whichever you think is coolest, especially with Space Marines, because, like, you can have a dope Crimson Fists army And then if you want to play Blood Angels, you can just get those character models and like some Sanguinary Guard, maybe they're cool tanks, and just paint them in your color scheme, and it all merges together. Like it's fine.
We got some questions in here, it looks like.
Oh, airbrushing indoors. I've actually had this question a lot recently. My blunt answer is if you need a ventilation system, you're probably going too hard. The airbrush. Like Kenny and I have very similar setups. The rooms that we're in are probably like 15 by 15 or abouts. Got a fan, got windows, it's well ventilated. And our workstation is like a 12 by 12 or like an 18 by 12 piece of construction paper on our desk. Anything more than that is kind of superfluous unless you're in a tiny ass little room with no ventilation.
If you're even then, if I'm doing a big priming day and I'm doing airbrush
priming is a bit of an exception.
So like you got to think about that. If you're using your airbrush and you're operating it correctly, 99% of the time, the vast majority of the paint that's coming out of the airbrush is sticking to your model or the paper. If that's not the case and you find your room getting gassed out, you're airbrushing wrong. Take my classes.
Yeah, you're going way too hard, right?
But priming's always kind of like that. So those are the days I might wear a mask or something like that, But if you live in an environment where you can prime outside with enamel, that can always, and you have no other method, that's fine too. There's not medical advice or anything. Never sleep on wearing some type of respiration, like respirator, on those hardcore days.
Yeah, like do whatever you feel comfortable with, but I mean, like, it's all about whatever you want, right? Because we're men, we like our toys. So if a hobby knickknack or crazy tool or gizmo, makes you hard, then go for it, man. Like if you want to get like a full on spray booth ventilator system for your desk, then Tim the Toolman tailor that shit and get it.
They sell one like Master sells one on Amazon for like $100.
Yeah, they're super cheap.
Yeah.
Like if you are not into that and you just want to make sure that like you don't get paint on your desk, can't go wrong with some construction paper and a cardboard box, man. Like, it's that easy.
And that was Wixie. Good question. Max G says, "What's a better base color?" Bases, not like the base color of the model.
Oh, wait, better.
He said for Blood Angels, he said a desert theme or a black background theme. So he meant like the base it's on.
Oh,
Blood Angels are warm. So I would always advocate for trying to cheat some dark coolness into your base. And that's going to be a compliment because of the coolness factor. And dark is going to be contrast because red is traditionally pretty fucking bright, right? So a darker,
makes sense,
grayish gravel with some cooler bluish hues in the grays for like some rocks always is going to look fantastic.
Yeah, my answer is similar. Whatever color contrasts the most with your paint scheme. In your case, if your choice is between like asphalt and desert, just go whatever you think looks coolest. All my Ultramarines, royal blue, Ultramarine style, they're all desert theater of war. I think it pops. There is something to be said about a contrast between temperatures. So I have the cool blue, but the warm desert. I think that looks neat. So I'm partial to that myself. I mean,
you have a warm desert and cool models, same thing in reverse. So like you have warm cool theory occurring, so like that is color theory. So his question is to basically like he doesn't know. He doesn't want to like face a bunch of guys and not be happy, right? Like,
oh yeah.
So first off, make sure the rim of your base is black. Don't fall into that pitfall.
Yeah, no matter what.
Don't fall into the pitfall because the black rim on the base will still hold it together if like your desert base is like not that dark compared to your model. The rim of the base is the frame of a picture. Think about it like that.
It's like a vignette.
Yeah, it's not part of the narrative. So it should be black and it will tighten and sharpen the image so you can get away with, you don't have to worry about how light or dark the base is relative to the model at all, as long as you have black rims. And don't sleep on the things you put on that base could also be a way to cheat. You know what I mean? You could have the right colored grass, the right colored foliage. All those things factor in. But if you just Google cool and warm color theory and you think about how to cheat that in, you'll be fine. I swear. But then also all that to say, color theory is just some shit we made up to retroactively explain things we observed in nature that were cool, that were like dope. Like we already knew these things looked dope together, and then one day we agreed that scientifically it makes sense. Coxie said that gray on cloth was a great idea. Thanks for that. Loving the Edgelords VODs. Oh, we were talking about, I guess that's from the after hours. Oh no, maybe we're talking about back. It's funny because we were just talking about that. Wyatt is talking about his guard is Talarn. And he's talking about sneaking some gray in there in lieu of silver and metallic paint. So I got confused.
Yeah, as far as bases, like my answer is almost always the same. So like if your Tyranids are dark colored and you want to do snow, that's probably pretty striking. It would look cool. If you have Thousand Suns and they're blue, something that contrasts the color blue would be cool.
40K may just Kenny, how would you lay down a solid, vibrant orange for my knights? If you're using acrylic paint and you want saturation, if that's what you mean by vibrant, and you talk about a really large surface area like a knight, traditionally you will see people like me and Wyatt working dark to light. So we would pick like a triad, like a dark blue, a mid blue, and a bright blue, and we work our way up. Orange, you can fall into it's a pitfall sometimes to work with a color like orange in that same capacity. Working from the dark to light, you might find that you never achieve the saturation that you're looking for. So those are the rare instances where you might catch me priming the model like a dark gray, and then pulling the airbrush out and spraying those large, gigantic panels with like kind of a white. And then setting the vibrant orange I've chosen in place. So I've skipped the first two steps, right? I've gone to the final highlight. Then I will back shade, right? I'll go backwards, shade in my panels with the airbrush, try to keep and preserve the vibrancy orange. But that's kind of hard to do on a 32 millimeter model, right? So there's other strategies that progressively get more tricky, but for a big ass knight, don't prime them white. That's not what I said. Prime them black, spray the panels you want to be vibrant orange white with your airbrush, and then make them super orange, and then work backwards from there. The last thing you want is this exoskeleton knight all white and bullshit. That's a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, there's really only one optimal way to paint Night Titans. It's leave the armor off, you spray the frame, either matte or metallic metal color, dry brush it, call it done, and then you paint the panels all super dope.
Thank you for bringing that up, Wyatt. Make sure.
As far as orange paints, you really good points on the orange paint. One thing I've noticed is that for a lot of painters, certain brands of paint can be a headache because they're just not that tight. For example, like your oranges from GW and your yellows from GW are generally pretty doo-doo dog water. So picking up paints from a different company where they might have like more dense pigmentation or a slightly different shade that's easier to work with is actually a real help. I'm a huge fan of the burnt orange, and you may have renamed it. The one I have is called Agent Orange, but I think it's just bright orange from Pro Acryl. It's still Agent Orange. Yeah, burnt orange and Agent Orange are two really good orange paints with great pigment to them.
Truth. And that's a good reminder. 40K may just make sure you're leaving your panels and shit separate. Okay, like don't glue them bitches up. Knights are easy as fuck to paint as long as you leave some of those parts off.
In that same vein, for me, and I've told this to a lot of my students, like the best way to make sure that you paint your models is to not assemble them in a way that lets you play with them before painting. And so what I mean by that is like don't glue your guys to bases. Paint in sub-assemblies, because one, it makes it easier to paint stuff. And two, it does not allow you to put those models on the table before they are finished and fully assembled.
Yeah, you can't trick yourself into thinking it's done.
Right. Because that's like one of the biggest pitfalls is like, oh, this new unit came out. I just want to get it on the table and play. So I'm going to like assemble it and glue it to a base and like put it on the table. And then that model doesn't get painted for like 5 years. Like, oh, I'll never get my army finished. Your army's fully assembled and you've been playing with it for months.
Because you
can't go to
an played event. Yourself.
Right. Like that is one thing I learned the hard way through my hobby journey. Like when I first started out as a younger teenager into adulthood, I would do that shit all the time. I would buy a new army. I would assemble it. I'd start playing with it immediately. I'd paint like half of it. And then I would lose steam and, not get it finished. So if you just don't allow yourself to have your fun until your army is fully painted, then you'll always have a fully painted army.
Facts. We got one right here. Andy. This is random thought. Any advantages to a filament 3D printer over a resin printer, or anything resin printer can't do that a filament printer can?
Yeah, there's lots of differences. Price, let's just get that out there right now. Like, can a filament printer do a lot of the things that a resin printer can? Yes. But the caveat is if you want high quality, you're not willing to, skimp on quality, you're talking a filament printer that costs a whole lot of money to get that tech that is that fine in its, its end result. So if you want to print miniatures, like to play on the tabletop, stuff like that, and you want them to look nice, get a resin printer. If you're talking about vehicles, some vehicles paired with a really nice filament printer can look pretty good, but it takes a shit ton of work to get them all smooth and stuff. Whereas it just comes out ready to go from a resin printer. The trade-off, however, is that resin printers are usually meant for smaller things, unless you buy a really big one, which again is more money. So I would not recommend printing stuff like really big, humongous stuff that a filament printer could do fine. Like if I was going to print out something like an orc stompa, filament printer might be better for some of those huge pieces. If I'm going to print out a table of terrain, a filament printer is probably better than a resin printer. But if I want like a Space Marine, or I want like a land speeder, or, like an Eldar jet bike, whatever you might want, and you want it to look tight, then resin printer is the way to go.
It's a fact. Ernest, I'm picking and choosing, guys. So I see there's other stuff in there, but I'm picking the ones I want. Ernest, he says, my nids are blue, black, and burgundy with a little purple highlights. Is snow good contrast? You're gonna answer that? You're gonna be stopping just throwing it. We're talking about value-based contrast here, Ernest. Snow is white, right? So it's like the brightest of all things. So as long as your Tyranid is darker than that, like it'll look great. So it'll look fantastic. Like absolutely.
Do not use GW's snow texture if you're gonna do that. Don't do it. It looks terrible. It yellows with time. Get some stuff from like AK Interactive for your snow effects.
It's true. Let me see. I think we're doing good now. Let's see. Let's find another one. One last one. People were asking about that orange, Agent Orange from Pro Krill.
Yeah.
MonumentHobbies.com.
Hey, just bought a resin printer. Yeah, dude, I want to get a filament printer unless you want to print real big stuff. I'm talking like real big, like terrain. Anything over like 6x6, 6 inches by 6 inches, you might want a filament printer for. Like if you want to do props and stuff, filament printer is fine.
Truth. Okay. No, I think we did it. All right. Shit. We're legends. Okay. So we have now created a podcast that is the appropriate amount of time. Why
We did it.
we're fucking
Stalled.
We're good.
Successfully.
We're good at this. So without Rob here, why you want to actually take us out of here?
Yeah, again, Rob's house was struck by a rogue F-22 Raptor that the government lost. He was destitute, without internet. He's cold. His cats need food. Please head over to our Patreon. Join today.